Hello, everyone. Welcome to BSC News Live. Thank you very, very much for tuning in, as always. A very special guest today. I know I often say, special guest, but today it is special. So obviously, we've been talking about BSC Protect RPC from BloXroute for quite some time now. And today we have Yuri from BloXroute on the stream. So firstly, thank you very, very much, Yuri, for joining us. It's great to have you here. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit and maybe a little bit about the team behind BloXroute?
Sure. So first of all, thank you for inviting me. And I have to say that BSC News have the best clip and music. I was we could use this for a dance party. I don't know who made it. We could open a club with this thing. So hi, Uri, CEO and co-founder of BloXroute. We're called BloXroute because we route blocks and transactions. Did my PhD. I'm a nerdy guy. I did my PhD in computer science, more specifically computer networks, even more specifically the blockchain network layer, and kind of got into the rabbit hole of crypto around 2016 or so from my research, actually, where you're wait, we can propagate information faster. We can make larger blocks, shorter time interval. We're thinking scalability kind of thing. And then, fast forward a few years, in 2020, we had our oh shit moment. We're wait, when the DeFi summer came out, people could use this to see information faster and send information faster. They could be making better trades using our infrastructure. So this is where things got from, oh, this is a cool idea, to, oh, we have 300 customers paying us quite a lot of money per month. And it's a super valuable product.
Interesting. Okay, so could you tell us sort of, how BloXroute started and the sort of story behind it? Obviously, you touched on it a little bit there, but if you could tell us, from the start to maybe, where you are.
So
now.
I was, yes. So I was actually, in my background, I was a software engineer back in Israel, and I decided I don't want to be a software engineer anymore. This is boring. You have to do the same stuff all over again and again. So I wanted to move to academia, and so I started my PhD. And then, as I mentioned, through my research, I started to touch upon the network layer of blockchains, basically how to send transactions faster, how to send them nowadays without being seen, so you don't get front run, how to send blocks faster, so you identify opportunities, these kind of things. And so one thing led to another, and me and my then advisor, now co-founder, Professor Kuzmanovic, I remember we were sitting in a day, we were making this idea how we could build this infrastructure and how it would be valuable. And we sat there and said, this is not $1 million idea. This is $1 billion idea. And we kind of have to do it. So we were sitting there let's stop here. This is really, really big. So it's not that some people say, oh, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I plan on doing a startup. I never planned on being an entrepreneur, okay? Don't tell the other founders, but entrepreneurs, they're kind of idiots. They're the jerks. So I'm the nerdy geek builders, coders side, right? I'm not okay, oh, let's do stuff, that kind of management kind of thing. But I had an idea, and one thing led to another. And now BloXroute is 50 people. We have people in the US, we have people in Israel, we have people in Ukraine, we have people in the Far East, basically all around the world. And we found a really cool product market fit because people want to use our infrastructure to make better trades on DeFi.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So I know there's people watching this stream now that are from entirely opposite ends of the spectrum. So sort of retail crypto users, pretty much like me, and then also people that are very interested in the sort of technical side, which I don't know much about at all. You're more than welcome to speak about it, but I won't be able to speak about it myself. But yeah, I mean, would you be able
So
to?
let me throw. There's a famous saying of Albert Einstein that basically said, like, if you can't explain, what was it? How do you say it in English? General relativity to a barmaid in 5 minutes, then you don't really understand it. It's like, take the most. If you really understand something, you should be able to explain it to everybody. And so, what we're doing is really simple. Really, at the end of the day, we have servers all around the world. And when we see somebody send a transaction or a block being mined or something like that, we hear about it and we send it really fast to everybody else. So think streaming, like you watch a video, instead of receiving the entire thing, like downloading it and only then starting to use it, we receive transaction and we already start streaming it on the other side as we receive it. So it's super fast. We're connected to everybody out there, all the validators, all the big traders, etc. So when a transaction comes, somebody makes a trade, we see it really fast, we send it really fast to everybody else. And so this is more for the bot traders kind of thing, high frequency. And when it comes to retail users and our services for BSC, one of the big problems everybody are talking nowadays is MEV, right? You make a trade, you get front run, you get sandwich, all the bad stuff that could happen to you. And basically we say, oh, give us the transaction. We won't send it to everybody else. We'll just give it to the validator, so nobody will be able to front run you. You won't get a worse price, right? If you're about to buy something, nobody would buy it just ahead of you in order to buy it, like, basically screwing you over. And more than that, we'll do what we call backrun me, okay? We'll backrun we'll send if your transaction leaves money on the table somehow, you didn't make the best trade. You should have paid some here and some on the other venue, like on this DEX, on that. If there's any money to be made, we'll try to capture that and we'll split it between the user and the validator and the searcher who found it and us. So is it technical? Yes, but it's also pretty simple. Does that make sense to you?
It does, yeah. So people that aren't using, for instance, BSC Protect RPC, which the QR code is down at the bottom, just there, if
Right
you're
there.
interested. Yeah, indeed.
Wait.
It's mirrored. I get that problem all the time, pointing in the wrong place. So people that aren't using this service, how do their transactions differ from a person that is using BSC Protect RPC? And,
sure. Let's talk about this. So first, I'll quickly mention that we have a few products. One of them is like BSC Protect, which is for retail. Basically, connect your MetaMask, which we'll explain in a second, or your wallet. So we protect you and help you capture any money that you leave there. We have a very similar service, but we just offer it to the DEX. So the DEX could be sending, like, it doesn't need, like, so we work with different parties here. But here, how it goes. In vanilla BSC, you run your wallet and it uses some provider. And so you see, like, price went down or up or whatever. So, okay, this is the time to make a trade. And probably there are 100 different people out there who are looking at the charts and saying, like, okay, I think now is a good time to buy or sell. So you create a transaction. Transaction is what? Just like a piece of byte saying, like, okay, send money from here to here, swap this token for that token, and keep it in this wallet. So you can make a transaction. It's a few bytes actually. You send it out there, and we just propagate in the world. So there is a peer-to-peer network. So you send it, and it goes to some nodes, and then it goes to other nodes, and everybody hear about it, including eventually the validator, who is the next to produce a block. So somebody out there is the validator who's in charge of producing the next block. So when he hears about this transaction, he will put it in there, depending on the gas fee that you're paying. And that's, again, in theory, vanilla BSC, and then your trade will execute. However, there are mean people out there who are running bots and say, well, if I see these 100 people making a trade, they're all, let's say, buying BNB, okay, or they're all selling BNB, whatever, like, it doesn't really matter the direction. How about that? Means the price of BNB is going to go up. How about I'll take all these transactions, put them in a check, and I'll send my transaction before that. I'll buy BNB right before they're about to buy it, when the price is still low. They will increase the price, and then I'll back run them also. Then I'll sell it, at this lower price. So together it's called sandwiching. Basically, I will buy before you and I will sell after you. And I actually didn't buy or sell. I just like made profit. Which like it's good for them, but it's bad for you as a user. You were about to buy an asset and they came before you and bought it and made you buy it at a higher price. That's really what's happening here. So it, pardon my language, it screws you over. Basically, instead of you getting a good deal, they took the good part, they get the good, you get the deal, and then they actually sell the good and they don't even want to make this trade. The back running isn't as bad. Okay, so it's kind of okay. If there's any money on the table, it's okay for somebody to sell and capture any arbitrage. This is plain vanilla how it works. And now we come, let's say, with BSC Protect and say, well, when you make a trade, send it here. Instead of your regular RPC provider, send it here. We will take this transaction. We will not front run it. We will hide it from all the others who might front run it. More than that, we will try to back run it. If there's any value there, if your trade left any money on the table, we will try to capture it. And we take it and we give it just to the validator. Okay, so that the validator received it in this order. Nobody can front run it. Nobody will sandwich it. And you even make extra money on your trade on the back running side. So it really is a win-win. The only one who are losing here are the MEV bots who don't get to take some of your money. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. And why don't all RPC URLs why don't the standard RPC URL perhaps that you get from the Binance website that it says to use in MetaMask, why isn't that doing this? It just seems as though your solution is the way to do it and best for the retail consumer.
I can actually speak for MetaMask because their point is a good one. I'll answer it in a second, but let's say the following. Up until a year and a half ago, this wasn't an issue, not a major issue. Definitely not. Like now, everything is super predatory or ultra predatory. So any value out there is being captured by bots, etc. So originally, there wasn't a need. Before the the DeFi summer, there wasn't any need. Now everything is very much in the open. Or let me add to that. Also, all the validators knew they're not supposed to capture MEV. They're not supposed to allow front running and all sorts of stuff like that. And so this became a problem. We offer such a solution. It's kind of like the evolution. It's kind of like, okay, now here is the better solution for that. We had an interesting conversation with the BNB Foundation about adding. So what I described earlier is also, in addition to background and protecting, it's also private transaction. Nobody sees it until it comes out in the block, which is something a lot of big traders want. They don't want to move the market in all sorts of ways. They want it to be unseen until it executes. And so, but we're providing this service. It seems like the logical next step. We're in the process of getting there. There is a good reason, let's say, for MetaMask not to do it from the get-go, because they have a problem. It turns them into a kingmaker. Okay, whoever they choose to work with is going to capture all the value. He's going to see all the transactions. They're going to capture it, and it becomes very centralized there. And MetaMask are actually good people. So we don't really like to be the kingmaker. And the other side of it, well, why don't they just give it to everybody? Well, if they give it to everybody, somebody might defect, right? Somebody might, it's not private in that way. Everybody sees the trend. One of them might would front run it and back run it, etc. So you can't give it to everybody. That's an issue. You can't just give it to one. And so it kind of goes to the user to choose who do they want to trust to give it to them. There aren't many actors like BloXroute who we're not MEV searchers ourselves. We're builders of infrastructure. We provide infrastructure on Ethereum, on BSC, on Polygon, on Solana, etc. So we're a major, let's say on Ethereum, we're a major block builder. Okay, we're the ones producing blocks in Ethereum. We're relaying blocks to validator, etc. So we're big enough and we've been in crypto for long enough for people to trust us. And so, does that answer the question?
It does.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. I mean, I could talk to you a lot about well, basically what we're talking about. I've got some questions in front of me that I think perhaps yeah, are more important for this, live stream, but very, very interesting indeed. Thank you, Yuri. And your explanation as well, to me as sort of a non-technical person, perfect. So thank you. Yeah, I'm the barmaid. Yeah.
Let me tell you a secret. It is exactly the same explanation that the technical guy would get. It's exactly the same, because every technical person is really good at this one thing that he knows and he's working on. And it's just like everybody else in the other 1,000 different crypto things. You think I know more about like ZK rollups and their how zero knowledge proofs work. Maybe I have some general idea, but really, if you want to talk about proofs and that's not my forte. So each person has the thing that he really knows what he's doing, and everybody on every other aspect, he's an idiot like the rest of us.
That's good. Good to hear. Thank you very much once again. So my next question for you is if you could explain to us perhaps why traders and also miners were the first market participants who enjoyed benefits from BloXroute BDN, BloXroute blockchain distribution network.
Yeah. So our BDN is our blockchain distribution network, what I described earlier. Basically servers which propagate information, transactions and block extremely fast. When we started this, the DeFi summer really started with Ethereum. So we were strongly focused on that. And the first we went with to see this were the traders and the miners, which has an interesting connection between them. Miners wanted to see the trader transaction really fast because they wanted to get the highest paying transactions, the most valuable transactions before they mine a block. So as they were this is prior to proof of stake. This is still hash power and proof of work. And they were trying to produce a block, but they wanted to produce the most valuable block. So they wanted to get the transaction fast. If a transaction takes another 100 milliseconds, then maybe I would produce the next block and just miss it. I didn't include that transaction because I didn't hear about it in time. Also, the trader wanted the transaction to go super fast to the miner. So they wanted to be connected with one another. Also, the trader wanted to see the blocks coming from the miner fast, so he knows what's the latest state, what's the price of each thing, how much liquidity, what things look like. And even traders wanted to see each other transactions. So oh, somebody is buying a lot of this, I should be buying more of it, blah, blah, blah kind of thing. And so you have these needs, but traders don't really want to connect directly with other traders. They don't trust one another. That miners really didn't want to connect their nodes to all the traders out there because they want them to DDoS them and open like an attack vector. So BloXroute came in just like in between and said, okay, we'll connect everybody. Okay, what we do is connect it. You send it to me, I'll give it to the miner. And we got connected basically with all the hash power in Ethereum. So they were the first to identify the value of hearing information and sending information fast. And it was kind of 2020, wait, we're 2023. I think 2021 was our most transformative, where, over the course of 5 quarters from the start of 2021 until Q1 of 2022, we moved from making no money and having we had the infrastructure, but we didn't really find the right product market fit, to having something like 300 customers, anywhere from Jump and Wintermute and Jane Street and Winter SCP, Ledger, all the big ones, to anonymous MEV searcher and whatnot, etc., and anywhere in between, paying us anywhere between $340,000 and $40,000 a month to see transaction block fast. So we really found we moved to routing something like 40% of all DeFi volume out there. Basically, everybody who wanted to trade wanted their trade to execute fast and used us. And we had no marketing, we had no sales, we had no customer. This is literally traders telling one another, oh, you should be using this. This is how I get my transaction going faster, etc. So we could have done better probably if we had sales and marketing and everything around it. But we were very proud of this fact. Basically moving from nothing to, I think we closed after 4 or 5 quarters, $10 million ARR or something like that, like from 0 to 1, that was really big because people realized just how valuable our service is.
Most definitely. And I'm just, as a sort of a retail customer, consumer, very, very happy with it as well. So I've mentioned on pretty much every single stream before this as well. I use, the BSC Protect RPC URL, and I love it. I'm a fan.
It's basically, it just works. You don't need to go there, change the configuration once it's done. It works. You don't need to do anything. And you know that nobody's fronting your transaction, which you don't. Would you get front run? You really don't want to find the answer to that. But you get front run protection. And if you left any money on the table, you'll get some of it back, which is like, oh, cool. Somebody is making sure I'm not like, I should have not traded, like maybe I should trade on sushi or on this or on that, whatever. I did my part, and if I did it wrong, somebody will try to capture and fix that for me.
Indeed. I always do try and make sure that perhaps, I do use the correct slippage. But a question that I have sort of in my mind, if I did swap, say, USDC to USDT with 50% slippage using BSC Protect, what would happen then? Would I get...
So when you... So A, you'll be just fine. That's the first thing. You'll make the trade. It will be probably like it will be 1-to-1 almost, like there will be no slippage, because when you set the slippage to 50%, you're not saying, oh, push me to 50. You're saying, I'm willing to accept all the way to there. But if you just sent it out there to the mempool, somebody would just in front of you put their transactions, buy a lot of one for the other to create slippage. You'll lose half of the value that you were supposed to get, and then come after you and close that like this sandwich. So if you would just send such a transaction in the general mempool to be seen in the public mempool out there, you will be hit, and you will be hit hard. But if you send it through us, basically it goes there, and you have a vulnerability in making such an order, but nobody will take advantage of it because we just gave it to the validator. Validator includes it. Nobody came before you to try to push the price against you.
Perfect. Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
100%. I also think it's really useful as well with token launches. As soon as a token launches, if it's got a very small market cap, obviously it can be very volatile. And there, if you weren't using BSC Protect and you used a high amount of slippage, which you often need to, just because
you have to, you really don't have it. There is a thing about slippage. People say, well, MEV, it's because people put stupid slippage. If they all just put the right slippage, nothing bad would happen to them. And that is absolutely wrong. This is not correct at all. And here's why. 2 reasons for this. 1, for large trade, so if you're trading size, or as you mentioned, there is a new token, it just launched or something like liquidity is small. You're buying it because you think it's going to be a hit. You hope it will be a hit. You have to accept the fact there isn't that much liquidity of it, right? If there's $100,000 worth of liquidity somewhere and you want to buy 10,000 of it, you will have slippage. You can't avoid it. So you're going to buy it, and you're going to have to put slippage there. You don't really have a choice. The current MEV ecosystem is such that if you put, well, I'm willing to go all the way to this number, you will get this number. Like somebody would come and front run you, or you will push you to that number, whether you like it or not. So you will get the worst execution on that, which sucks. We want to provide a better DeFi ecosystem for people to actually use and be beneficial and be competitive with CeFi. At least that's my vision and what I care strongly about. So that's what. So if you make So that's one thing, right? Whether you trade size or there's not a lot of liquidity, but you'll have to have slippage there. The second one is about the timing. Prices in the real world change in real time. So maybe you made an order and said, well, here's the amount and I'm putting this amount and this is okay, this is the current price. But 5 seconds later, when the trade is about to execute, maybe the price just crashed, or maybe it just like skyrocketed. Maybe it changed drastically, and your order is actually wrong. Like your order won't, whether it would either fail, right? You're about to buy a token, it's going to go up or whatnot, etc. And you're buying it, and it already went up a bit. You still want it to execute, so you want to accumulate for the fact that while the transaction is about to execute, things could change, and you want your transaction to execute, not to fail. It's kind of like, I don't want it to fail. I do want to buy of it. And so these are the two reasons where you can't just say, oh, just put slippage as it should. You can. It's like technically and reasonably, or you can't, because the world is constantly changing around you.
Perfect. Again, thank you for the great explanation. Very easy to understand. Thank you.
This is what I'm here for.
Perfect.
Other people build the tech at this point. They don't allow me to touch the code. I don't even have like SSH access to anything. They say, Uri, why don't you go sit there, make yourself a copy or something. Let us do. We write the code better than you. And they do. They know that. Like, I'm not allowed to at this point.
Well,
like if I'll force my way in, like, you know, I can get in, but all the devs will look at me and say, like, Uri, what are you doing?
Very good. Well, yeah, you and them, they've certainly built a very impressive product. And my next question as well is, where is the blockchain distribution network now? And also, what chains are supported? So I've got these little QR codes as well that I keep on sort of cycling for Polygon, BSC, and also F. But yeah, if you could tell us, you know, where it is now, that would be good.
So we started with Ethereum, obviously. So we have the service, and Ethereum is also in the forefront of MEV ecosystem, etc. So exploring and MEV boost and stuff around that. So we started with Ethereum. Then our customers came to us and said, like, listen, we want you to support BSC. And it wasn't a single customer. It wasn't one. It wasn't two. It wasn't three. So they came to us and we decided to add support for BSC. Then we had Polygon, who actually came to us and said, oh, let's integrate. Like, this would be like a win-win for everybody. And we'll bring all our big traders with us. It's super valuable for everybody. So we have this on Polygon as well. And now we also have a trader API on Solana. So Solana is a bit of an island and very hard to trade on if you have an EVM setup, right? If you have a trading setup to trade on Ethereum, it would also work for BSC. It will work for Polygon. It won't work for Solana. You need to run a Solana node. It's complicated, whatever. And so we built a trader API so you could also trade on Solana using whatever ecosystem, like whatever setup you have. So you don't need that. And so the BDN right now support all these 4 chains, considering others too. But again, we follow the market. So it's like we're not putting directional bets usually on, okay, what will end up working. So like, okay, where is the money? Where is the trading activity? Trading activity is most strongly on Ethereum, then BSC, then Polygon, then Solana. It's that simple. So that's on that. And we provide our services. So private transaction, background, where it exists, then providing bundles, basically sending a bundle of transactions. We have all sorts of interesting users, like a DeFi product that want to include multiple transactions simultaneously. So it's like, okay, I want these to exit. Think of like somebody wants to buy 2 mint NFTs, but not in a single transaction. Or like, okay, this one and that one. Okay, so you batch them together and you want all of them to happen simultaneously, like in the same block. A bit of that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, which I'm amazed about. So yeah, you make perfect sense. I'm understanding all of this. But because I thought sort of at the beginning of this, you know, I'm going to be out of my depth, but you're making it very easy to understand. So thank you very, very much.
Good.
You mentioned earlier as
it means like when I'm failing, it's on me, by the way. If I explain something and it isn't like obvious for everybody, that means I'm not doing a good job, which sometimes also happens.
Well, so far you're doing a fantastic job. So thank you very much, Uri. Earlier you mentioned as well the move with Ethereum from proof of work to proof of stake. Would you be able to tell us maybe about the impact? I'm just going to read sort of what I've written here. The impact, the BloXroute market outlook. Well, how did the shift from proof of work to proof of stake impact BloXroute, if any?
So the move from proof of work to proof of stake is the largest thing to happen in 2022. Nothing comes close. Not FTX implosion. Like this is the biggest thing by a big margin, and that is first because okay, we just got rid of proof of work and we stayed with proof of stake, which is a good thing. But it completely changed the MEV and DeFi landscape. Okay. It changed Here's a very simple explanation how it used to be and how it is right now. It used to be that you had mining pools of miners, and they would try to build blocks. Okay, so they hear transactions, and later, okay, Flashbot came out, and we came out, actually prior to Flashbot, and we gave them bundles. So it's kind of, okay, put this transaction, then this transaction, that transaction. So they will get all that, and they will try to create the most valuable block. That's how it used to be. And then, okay, one created it, then another, etc. Now, it's a completely different game. Under MEV, it's called MEV Boost. So this new MEV landscape on Ethereum, and even under the merge, all of a sudden, validators say, well, instead of me producing the blocks, how about I will outsource it to others? So I will allow, you can offer me one block and say, oh, it will pay me 1 ETH. And this guy offer me a block that would pay me 1.1. And this guy offer me 1.2. And I will choose whoever pays me the most and will produce that block. And so now we have 2 new roles in this game. Actually, we have a few more, but you have block builders. Their job is to try to produce the most valuable block. We run a block builder, a major one. We usually produce between 5 and 15% of all blocks in Ethereum, which is it's huge, and it's kind of like, we're producing 5 to 15% of all blocks. That's a lot of responsibility, guys. So we're a major block builder there. And so we and other block builders try to produce the most valuable blocks with public transactions and private transactions and Backrun Me, which try to capture value from them and pay some of that value to the validators, and several other services that we're trying to produce the most valuable block and give it to the validator. There's also another role between the validators who actually sign the block and create it, and the block builders who are kind of like, okay, try to build the most valuable block. In between, there is a relay. So we run a relay, Agnostic run a relay. There are a few of us who get the block from the block builders, give it to the validator, say, oh, sign here. Basically, here's a block that paid you that much. If you sign it, we send it to everybody else, basically trying to prevent them from, pardon my language, screwing one another. And so the landscape in Ethereum, with a move from proof of work to proof of stake, changed drastically. All of a sudden, it is very much less about the validator. It is very much about the block builders and the searchers, the people who are looking for MEV opportunities in the ecosystem, private transactions, etc. This is an entirely new landscape. And there are a few more things coming, I think, in the future, which are, from my perspective, super interesting and exciting. How can we build the best DeFi ecosystem for users so they benefit from it? They don't get front run, they don't get sandwiched, rather they capture value for the transaction that they create. Basically, how can we make DeFi valuable and useful?
Indeed. And did you foresee the impact, well, what the merge changes, the impact that would have on BloXroute, or did it happen and then you sort of worked it out as, well, after it happened?
No. It was funny. So we just had Paris Blockchain Week last week. I wasn't in this one. Exactly a year ago. So last week, I actually organized a side event in Ethereum. Basically, can we talk about this? Basically, like, oh, here's what's going to happen. Nobody in the community understand it. Nobody in the community understand the implications of it. I brought Lido in. I brought Ethereum Foundation in. Vitalik came there. Vlad came there. Like Flashbots came there. Block Demon came there. All the large actors, searcher teams who came and said, I'm a searcher. I'm not telling you my name, kind of thing. So like a lot of searchers came there. We had a really good discussion, basically trying to give up, like, tell people this thing is coming. You should be aware of its implications, what it means, and we should start talking about it. So we knew it was coming and how important it is. A few others did, but I think most of the community was kind of like, oh yeah, the merge, like, yeah, and getting excited about it, but did not understand the implications on DeFi and MEV and the other stuff around it. So we knew it was coming. We worked for months before that to be a really good block builder, to provide private transaction, even beyond Ethereum. So, okay, how can we do this on Ethereum? How can we do this on BSC? These kind of things. And so I don't think I was surprised by like the implications, but it is very different. Like there's a big difference between, oh, things will likely play out this way compared to, look at this. This is insane. Really, I go online and say, well, where we in the past 24 hours, we produced 10% of Ethereum blocks. And like, that's insane. We're a company of 50 people with an idea I came with when like doing my PhD, and all of a sudden we're producing 10% of Ethereum blocks. We're routing 40% of all DeFi volume across all chains. That's almost unthinkable. And so now we're very much, if originally our focus were very strongly on, well, the Wintermute, the Jump, the really big actors and allowing them, now we're also saying, well, retail users should also get their solutions. That's one side. So make it easy for them to benefit from the same value that our top traders in the world are getting. So they could get access to that as well. Avoid front running, get background me, these kind of things. Have very fast inclusion rate. So it's more about Ethereum, less on BSC, but it's kind of like, if you send us the transaction on Ethereum, usually it gets mined in the next block because we get it, we give it to the other block builder. This is like, that's our business. Most others, Flashbot will take you like 5 blocks or something like that until it's included because they're waiting until they'll be the one to produce the block, etc. So all of a sudden we're providing services to retail, which we think are valuable. And on the other side, we're working with wallets and we're working with dexes, basically saying, well, let's not make the users have to, hop through the hoop of changing the network and changing the configuration. We could get this directly from the DEX. If the DEX sends us the transaction, then we do this background me, we get some of it, what it goes to. The DEX could decide, does it capture the value? Does it pass to the user? Do they split it 50-50? Really, it's a business decision of the DEX or aggregator. We pay some of it to the validator, some to the searcher, but really allowing both wallets and DEXs to capitalize and monetize the activity they're providing. So instead of charging fees or whatnot, it's kind of like, well, instead of doing all that, you have a lot of users, they're sending a lot of transactions, send it our way, we will help the users. Okay, this is not taking advantage of them, it's the opposite. They will have faster execution, protection from front running, and if there's money left on the table, the DEX would capture some of that.
Perfect. Yeah, it's a no-brainer, I think. Definitely. And
that's what I thought.
Yeah, and hopefully, other people realize that, if they're not using, for example, BSC Protect RPC, it really is a no-brainer. It doesn't cost anything. It's just, I don't understand why people wouldn't use it.
Like at the very so when I did, it's like, so we built it and we didn't start with this. So we built our own network on Ethereum and BSC and Polygon. And they're like, everybody should be using this.
Yeah.
If yes, the background, capturing the background, that's a bit, that's a boat. It's like the icing on the cake. That's not the big thing. But preventing yourself from getting front run, and usually front run, of course it happens to the largest trades. They always get front run. That's a no-brainer. But you as a small user also get front run because you're batched with other transactions. Okay, you buy something and your trade is small, but it's you and this guy and that guy and that guy and that guy. Together, you're big enough so somebody front run all of you together, then sandwich it and back run you on the other side. So you really should be doing it to protect your trades. It's as if there is a fee to the DEX for the swap, and you're just not aware of it. You're paying that fee, but you're not seeing that you're paying that fee. And really, BSC protects you literally from that.
Indeed. I've got some questions. You mentioned it very briefly just then, that you're sort of, in 2023, you got into the MEV redistribution space. But before I ask that, I just want to ask your opinion on front running do you think it's unethical to front run? But I personally don't think it's, So I think, if it can be done, it's legal. If person's clever enough to make these bots, obviously it does it can take advantage of people new to the space and people making mistakes. But I I think it is a bit sort of fair game. What do you think?
So I had a lot of arguments, even with people I think really highly of. Let's say Stefan, who used to be at Flashbots. I think he left. Here's my take. MEV is a fancy name for really two things. Okay, MEV is front running. Basically, you see a transaction and you put your transaction ahead of it. So front running, getting ahead of them to buy at a better price, and then usually sell after that. And arbitrage. Okay, arbitrage is backrunning. When I backrun a transaction, it's basically because, okay, I bought it in this DEX, and now there's a difference between DEX A and DEX B, and so, okay, capture that arbitrage, etc. Arbitrage is perfectly fine. It really is okay. It doesn't hurt the user. It doesn't change the price. User left money on the table. Somebody would pick it. It makes sense for somebody. Okay, let's try to pick it. It's okay for it to capture some of that value. It would be nice if the user will capture some of the value it left on the table. Some of it will go to the validators for facilitating it. That's totally okay. But front running, putting your transaction ahead of somebody else, making a trade, you didn't want to make that trade. This is toxic order flow, okay? You don't buy an asset because you want to buy it or don't want to buy or sell an asset. You buy it because the price here is 99 cents and there's somewhere else which is $1. So you buy it ahead of it and before a trade executes. That is legal, fair game, maybe. Is it a good thing? No. Now, I have more than that to say. I would argue the following. It can happen now. Can we design the system in a way which prevents it? Okay, so you send us our transaction through the BSC Protect. We said, like, this is how it works, and it stops from happening. So everybody gets their fair price. You made a trade. You thought, oh, here's a price. I'm going to trade against that, and this is the price that you get. That's a good thing from my perspective. So that's one thing. Second thing is the following. MEV is big, okay? Hundreds of millions per year. But it's dwarfed compared to, let's say, staking. Okay, the numbers at the staking is in the billions. And so people are in crypto, whether that's in BSC or Ethereum, so stakers and validators would actually be better off economically. You're better off if there isn't any front running and DeFi is successful and is blooming and it's easy to use and people use it. So if you have these two paths before you, in one of them, there is MEV, there is front running, it is there. Or, you know, there's a magical path out there in which somehow we magically made front running disappear and DeFi is easier and it's better and it's. And so in 5 years from now, how much do you think this more flourishing, better DeFi ecosystem would be, and how it would affect prices of all the assets? I don't know the answer. Nobody knows the answer. It will be a bull market and a bear market. But comparing these two, like whatever happened, they go up and down. But I'm pretty damn sure that this protecting from front running will lead us to a future in which all the assets are priced a bit higher. So instead of something being worth $100, it will be worth $110. Or instead of being worth $10,000, it will be $1,100. And that is much bigger money. Okay, think about all this. Like, I know that from the top of my head, I know the Ethereum numbers. Okay, $25 billion of ETH staked right now. Okay, increasing that by 10%. Okay, $2.5 billion in 5 years. That's $500 million per year. That's a lot more than, let's say, $100 million of front running. So let's focus on capturing the back running and the arbitrage and the good stuff. And let's try to minimize and mitigate the thing that hurts users. And from my perspective, is unethical is a hard, like, is it unethical? It's more unfair than unethical. Okay, like I send this transaction, the retail user doesn't have that much control. He doesn't run a bot. It doesn't do it full time. Okay, this is not his bread and butter, the way the MEV bot kind of like does it. So I am very much in favor of low latency, move fast, try to capture arbitrage. All the prices should be the same everywhere. People should move fast. It's a good thing. So when I make a trade, it's at the actual price because everybody captured all the arbitrage there was ever to be captured. But let's try to avoid the front running part which hurts user. And again, from my perspective, even for not just to be a good person, it's better for everybody. It's better for the ecosystem. Everybody will make more money if we find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, no, I do understand. Yeah, you've opened my eyes, to another sort of side of it. I
Again,
didn't see.
It's an aspect. I'm willing to accept that, like, okay, what's okay and what's not okay, and how we should be thinking about it. But like, at the very least, it's worth exploring and thinking, like, which kinds of MEV we want. Okay, like maybe a lot of the time, what happened, the front running happens, it hurts the user, but the front runner also pays a lot of that value to the validator to capture it. So it really goes to the validators and the stakers. If people just made private transaction to avoid front running, and that paid directly to the validator, they'll be making that money. But I've been arguing with Flashbots, I think with James Presswich a bit about it. My argument is like, okay, it's gonna, they'll club you in the head and take some money of that, but maybe you'll be able to capture some of that money. And the question is, maybe we can avoid the clubbing in the head. Okay, maybe it will pay fee or something like that. Maybe the cost will be slightly higher, but you avoid clubbing the users in the head, extracting value and then passing it to the validator. Maybe just the validator service will be more, paid private transaction as an example. Okay, you want your transaction to avoid front running, pay this tiny amount, don't get clubbed in the head, and the validator makes the money. So maybe you could find a win-win that everybody benefits.
Very interesting. And one more thing before we get on to a bit more in depth about MEV, and BloXroute's journey into that is arbitrage. So is at the moment, in this current day and age, is it possible for people to manually arbitrage between dexes, or is it entirely done with very close margins, just all bots now?
It's a hard one. There's in theory, everything is automated already, and everybody captures it, and it's kind of like everything is covered in theory. So bots should cover everything and identify everything and would be faster than you, and etc. On the other side, we just had an example, okay, with the USDC depegging or whatnot, etc. I don't even remember which. There was a transaction of somebody identifying a pool which was mismanaged, and they captured $2 million off it and paid, I think, either 20,000 or $40,000 in fees to the bank, basically taking home $2 million because he was the only one to identify, oh, here's a thing that doesn't work well, and okay, let me fix this. I will take all the arbitrage. And nobody else did it. If somebody else was competing on that, then they will have to kind of like outbid one another. It would have driven the price up. It didn't. And so in theory, no, you shouldn't be able to capture manually arbitrage and identifying that. In reality, I think these stuff are happening and continue to happen. And to some degree, there's a lot of manual trading happening. More, I think, than identifying the graphs and what markets look like, etc. Less, okay, atomic arbitrage between this DEX and that DEX. But it all still, I would argue, or there's a lot still happening of people manually looking at the chart and say, okay, this is the bottom, this is the top. I think the trade should look this way, etc. There's still a lot of that, and it's a core, let's say, art that I think will stay.
Very interesting. Thank you very much. And now on to I've just been very, very you're a very interesting person. So thank you very much for answering all these questions. So obviously coming in 2023, BloXroute ventured into the MEV redistributions space. Could you tell us a little bit about how it's actually possible to capture MEV and then to give it back? And also, what is the difference between good and bad MEV?
So this is a bit what we discussed a bit up until now, that front running is the bad MEV because it hurts the user. Okay, you want to make a trade before, if you made a trade before I made a trade, that's totally fine and fair. If I made a trade and you saw my trade and you made your trade just to get ahead of me because that allows you to capture value, that's bad MEV. That's unfair. And forget about unfair. It's, generally speaking, destroys value. It doesn't make DeFi better, it makes it worse. Okay, we can find a solution where everybody could benefit without hurting the user. So while capturing arbitrage, whether that's backrunning or arbitrage in general, is a good thing. Because when I make a trade, I expect to get the correct price. Okay, so if I trade against one DEX, I don't want its price to be different from other DEX. Like, I do want people to capture arbitrage, so all the prices everywhere are the same. And it basically means that when I trade, I trade against the global liquidity. Okay, when I make the trade, I'm not just trading on the liquidity on the AMM or the DEX I'm trading against right now. I'm making a trade that I expect everybody, if this pushes the price in one direction, all the liquidity from everybody else will come and push it in the opposite direction, because everything moves fast and captures any arbitrage. So arbitrage is a good MEV, and fees, and people being willing to pay, whether that's private transaction and background and these kinds of stuff, capturing value for execution, that's good MEV. Front running and hurting the price people get is bad MEV. So that's which we slightly covered earlier. When we're now venturing, and specifically, we're looking at really interesting stuff to do in the BNB and the BSC, specifically ecosystem, then we're looking for ways to allow, so capturing MEV is whether through what we discussed, like whether that's BSC Protect, okay, basically provide the service to the users to send their transaction, avoid front running, capture good MEV, back running, and redistributing it, some to the validator, some to the user, some to the starter. That's one thing. The DEXs, which I mentioned earlier, and the wallets, a way for them to monetize the MEV they create. So again, let's avoid front running the users. We want, to an extent, users are king. They can choose whether to use this or not. From a almost philosophical perspective, you have two really extremes. In one, it is the validator, which is the king, and in the other, it is the user, which is the king. And they kind of like push against one another. The validator says, well, I will try to put transaction in front and behind and capture all the MEV that I could. And on the other side, you can say, well, the user, I won't send transactions unless I know I am protected and I'm capturing some of the value I'm creating. And I think the best path is to try to find a way in the middle, which the user is compensated for his transactions, background me, and etc., protected from front running. Any value that could be made is extracted, and some goes to this side and some goes to that other side. And these are the stuff that we're looking into. I have my own thing. It's not a BloXroute thing yet. It's something under the hood. We're working on it. Let's see if it plays out the way that I want. I want to turn DeFi into a real-time thing. I want DeFi to compete with C5. Okay, C5 works in real time, and everybody trading big is trading first on C5. DeFi, because everything is front run and it's ultra predatory and etc., everything is slowed and it takes longer time. Then a lot of entities won't make trades on DeFi, and even more so, going back to the arbitrage point, fast arbitrage is better than slow arbitrage, right? For the LPs. If you're the, pardon me for not caring that much how much profit the ARB bot is making, but for the people, the people who are providing liquidity and the traders and etc., they actually want to price to move in tandem with the real world. Like we said earlier, when I want to execute a trade, I want it to be in the real price, in the actual price. So I have this idea of how can we turn DeFi into real time. You made a trade, you immediately know whether it executed or not and at what price, etc. And these are the kind of stuff that we're kind of like exploring. Private transaction, background me, working with wallets, working with DEXs, working with users with BSC Protect, basically allowing all the entities to capture part of the value they're creating. Okay, I think the DEX should capture some of the value because they build the DEX. I think the wallet should capture some of the value because they build the wallet the user is using. The user is the one actually making the trade. He should probably capture some of it. And the validator also is actually the one ordering transaction and providing, and he should receive some of it for its services. So the value out there really should be redistributed to all the actors participating. And we have really interesting conversations with the BSC, with the BNB Foundation and other actors in the space. How can we do the best job in providing these?
Very interesting. Yeah, again, I could go down a real rabbit hole of questions here. But again, thank you very much, Yuri. And from a retail side, obviously, the solution to this is, or what I've been talking about pretty much every day, is the solutions that BloXroute offer: BSC Protect, RPC if you're on BNB chain, and then other networks as well that have been flashing up: Polygon Protect, ETH, Gas Protect. As well. A question as well that I've got is the solutions. What are the solutions for this on the protocol level? And I've got a little hint. Well, a sort of a reminder for me, which is MEV redistribution solution. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about that?
So it's a lot of that. So kind of like going back to what I said earlier. So this is the MEV redistribution and going to the validators and the wallets and the dexes and basically whoever we cooperate with. You should think about it the following. From a protocol perspective, we have a bit of, there's an issue if this is a wild west and everybody does what it wants. Okay, you have validators who aren't capturing MEV because up until not long ago, it was clear that validators shouldn't be capturing MEV. They shouldn't be front running the users which they're serving, etc. So they took a step back and said, like, we're not doing it. Others have been more proactive and said, like, oh, any transaction that we see, we collaborate, we try to front run them, we back run them. So you have like some of them went full out, try to front run their like all the transaction out there. Some of them were kind of like, oh, we'll just do back running and capture that. But the result is they provide different APYs. So now some validators are more profitable than others. And that is an issue. Why is that an issue? Because if validator 1 is making more money than higher APY than validator 2, everybody will take their stake and put it with validator 1. Right? If validators don't make the same amount of APY in the same money, then it would cause centralization and all the stake would go to whoever makes the most money. And that feeds itself. If it is the largest, everybody needs to send their transactions there. It can extract more of the value. They don't need to give anything to the user, right? They can keep all of it to themselves because the user doesn't really have a choice. If there's just one validator, controls so much of the stake. And so it is very important to allow all the validators to participate in this in a way that kind of like puts them all, if not equal, then very comparable APYs. So when you think about it from the protocol level, you care about, it's kind of like interesting. All of a sudden, you care about validators making similar APY. And in order to do that, we're already speaking with quite a lot of validators. We're speaking with the foundation in providing the different solutions, whether that's private transactions, and whether that's background me, and whether that's the BSC Protect and others, basically ways for validators to monetize and be on par with everybody else. Does that make sense?
Of course it does. Yeah, no, thank you very much. And obviously we've talked a lot about what you offer, the sort of retail side. Obviously we've talked about the sort of not retail side of it as well. But would you be able to tell us a little bit about well, at the moment, you're focused a lot on BNB chain, which is great. Could you tell us what you offer the protocols, dexes, and also wallets in the MEV redistribution space?
So and I'll even add to that the RPC providers. It's for each one of these actors, we provide the same, from a different angle, but we provide the same thing. We allow them to capture a portion of the MEV. So think about this way. You have two dexes, dex 1 and dex 2. DEX 1 doesn't work with us. They keep doing whatever they're doing regularly and try to monetize it, which basically means fees. If you have DEX 2 who do work with us, and they're like, okay, they send transaction to us, we protect their users and capture backrunning and share that with the DEX. So their users are better off. They're getting better trades happening there. And the DEX is actually making money from backrunning and capturing arbitrage behind them. So it could reduce its fees. And that would, so DEX 2 will obviously provide better service than DEX 1. And so this is it's a competition, and it's like a competitive edge, but it's also almost a necessity. Everybody will need to play in this game. You don't really have a choice. You have to protect your users. Okay, if you're running a DEX, you either work with us on something like this, or your users get front run and you make less money. And so same goes for wallets. Okay, wallets are providing a great service for the users, and they're routing the transaction for them in many of the cases. And if they send it through us, it's a monetization for the wallet and the users are protected. And if they don't, then they don't make money and it's worse for the user. So it's not like a trade-off. Oh, do we use BloXroute? It has a good thing and it has a bad thing. It's like, no, it's a win-win. You use BloXroute and it's better for your users and you can monetize it and it's better. And also same for the validators, right? Validators, and again, a lot of them had taken a step back because they weren't sure how the foundation feels about it. Foundation basically said, like, we understand, like, Foundation cannot tell validators what to do. Validators can do whatever they want. But still, validators want to be in favor of the community. And so, and the Foundation has a strong signal in it's like, okay, what is it that people want? And recently, the Foundation had been very vocal and saying, like, validators should do what they think is best. It would be great if they will collaborate with multiple providers. Go try BloXroute out, go try this one out, try to see who gives you the most value, etc. And let's allow this ecosystem to grow to benefit the users and to benefit decentralization.
Very good, thank you. And sort of leading on from that as well, what is the value for BNB validators being connected to BloXroute?
So it's funny. We had a South African employee who was like, he was in the BloXroute because South African says route and not route usually, and both are okay. It's usually BloXroute because I pronounce it this way, I guess. Validators connecting to us get a few things. First, as I mentioned, we're building a way without changing the code of the validator. Probably in the future there will be changes, etc., but allowing them to capture MEV and receive the same APY as other validators. So this is critical. We also have people who send transactions privately to us. We don't send it everywhere else. So if you want access to these high-paying transactions, you want to get connected to us. And even, I would say, even transactions that are propagated everywhere, they take time to reach the validators. So validators sometimes miss out on good, valuable, high-paying transactions because people, they missed it. The transaction was created, but the time it's being sent to the other side of the world, that validator already produced a block and missed it. So by being faster to propagate and connecting to private transactions and sharing a portion of the MEV, then we really help BNB validators to increase their APY, which isn't just a good thing for them. It's a good thing for the ecosystem. They need to increase their APY for the sake of decentralization. If they don't do it, all the stake will go to those who do it, and it's a bad thing.
Yeah, and how, this might sound like a bit of a silly question and might be a very simple answer, I don't know, but when one validator starts to become a higher APY, how does that not cause a knock-on effect and basically more and more people just go to that validator and yeah.
So it's not this is the, some would argue this is the number one problem of MEV. It's exactly that. If you have your BNB, like, okay, who do you stake it with? Do you stake it with the guy who makes 6.5% or the guy who does 7%? Of course, you're going to put it in the 7%. So this is a major issue to decentralization. And the entire reason that a Flashbot exists, and again, I disagree with them about a lot of stuff, but this specifically, this needs resolving? Yes. Okay. I'm in the opinion that we could reduce front running and protect users and do better, etc. But what you're asking is the number one most important thing about MEV. To avoid everybody just putting their stake at the highest APY validator and really crush decentralization, exactly to prevent it, other validators need to come and connect to an MEV solution like BloXroute. Not only because it's good for them, not only because it improves the money that they're making, etc. It is actually for the sake of decentralization. They need to do it, otherwise all the stake would move in a bad way. We actually want stake to go to as many validators as possible. And for that to work, we need all these validators to participate in the MEV game so they can provide similar APY.
Perfect. No, again, easy to understand.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it really does. So thank you very much. Yeah, I've asked you a lot of questions, and those are pretty much all the questions that I have for you, as well as obviously a lot more that have just popped into my head. Is there anything that I've not asked you or that we've not discussed that you'd like to bring up at all?
I think we covered all the important things. I think I would only bring up that we're seeing the BNB and the BSC ecosystems as a significant part of crypto. Okay, like people really, they're where does DeFi and MEV happen? In Ethereum, in a BSC. This is where everything happens. Everything else is 2 orders of magnitude smaller than that. This is super critical. And the BSC ecosystem is important and large and affecting people's lives. People are participating in it. This is their livelihood. And so we're trying to provide the best tooling and the best infrastructure to provide valuable trading DeFi like experience. And so I really want people who are listening here, if you're just retail users, go use our BSC Protect RPC. Get the same features that really, literally jump winter, paying quite a lot of thousands of dollars per month to utilize. Protect yourself from getting front run, capture value. Like it really is a no-brainer, and it takes like 30 to 45 seconds to do it. That's one thing. If you're a wallet or a DEX, again, being part of this game is almost necessary. You want to compete and provide similar value to your competition, then you want to send transactions. So we protect your users, and any value they keep is being shared with the validator and our partners, whether these are wallets or DEXs. Same goes for the validators. So we really are very interested to expand our collaboration in the BNB ecosystem. And don't be a stranger. Reach out on Twitter or directly or here or on YouTube or anywhere. We are very happy to explore collaborations across the board.
Fantastic. Well, Yuri, honestly, thank you once again. It's been one of the most interesting crypto chats I've ever had. And I've learned so much. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Tom. This was fun.
Very fun. But yeah, very educational for me. I learned loads. And yeah, it's always, very, very interesting. So listeners, community, thank you very much for tuning in. If you're watching live, recorded, obviously, we have multiple QR codes on the screen. F gas protect is up there, and then BSC protect is down there. All you need to do is just scan the QR code.
I feel like the game machine that you move the arm and you find it. And
every stream, I have the same problem where I just point in the wrong direction. And something that's going to be very different from this stream to every single other one is I'm not now going to say I'm just going to introduce our sponsor, because we've just done it. So you've saved me a bit of time.
We just had it. This was fun. Tom, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for listening. This was super fun. Do reach out if you ever want to chat.
Thank you very much, Yuri, and speak very, very soon. Thank you again.